Suswagatam and welcome to our Sunday edition of Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga on our Virat Hindustan Sangam social media channels. Today we have an interesting discussion, which is our episode 162, is Hindutva under siege in India today. As you all know, there is a lot of things happening in India and abroad, and a lot of discussion on what's happening on the Hindutva issue. We have with us, as usual, Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who is the patron and president of Virat Hindustan Sangam. And we have with us another guest, Sree Iyer. As you all know, he is a prominent author, patent holder, and he runs the famous P Guru channel, and he is daily making news all across the globe. So we welcome him to our show. And I also have to thank our co-host Ramesh Swamy and Professor Arvind Chaturvedi from Delhi for hosting this program every Sunday along with me. And I have to thank our technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Tejas Navalgol, Swaminathan, Ishwar Iyer, our friend from Mumbai, Vishal Mehta, Ajesh Nair, and others for their background support to put this time together. Our Rakesh Gadgi from Karnataka for his help to put all this material together every Sunday and working in the background. So with these words, it is over to Dr. Swamy to initiate this important discussion, is Hindutva under siege in India today. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Jagdish and colleagues. We are today on a new subject. People might say that, well, you did speak so much about Hindus under siege. Now what's new that you are saying? And the answer is, I said those days about Hindus under siege, but today I am going to talk about Hindutva under siege. That is, Hindu is what we call as the core, and Hindutva is the flavor. So something is the core, and then it becomes, and then it manifests itself as a flavor. And so, in that sense, I am today making a distinction between Hinduism, and Hindutva. Hindutva is the flavor of Hinduism, and it represents all the things that we as Hindus display in our behavior. If you are, well, for example, if you are very differential to your parents, which you don't find anywhere else in the world, that's a part of the Hindutva. So that way. Now, what I think is that the earlier time, I talked more about the structure of Hindu, and then I brought in 5 points, and those 5 points we developed in our Virat Hindustan Sangam as the core issues, and on that basis we went ahead. Now, let me just say one thing. While I'm preaching or advocating, I am not insisting that you should follow this, but I say this is what I have learned, and this is the best way. Now, you would be surprised that if you look at the Gita, where Lord Krishna is giving instructions after instructions and instructions, and right towards the end, in the last chapter, which is chapter 18, in Shloka 63, and I'll speak from the English translation of Swami Dayanand Saraswati. What he says, Krishna says in the 63rd shloka on the last chapter, thus the knowledge that is more secret than any secret was told by me to you. This is what Krishna says. Considering this thoroughly, you may do just as you wish. Will you see this in any other religion where God says, you may do as you wish? I have shown you the path. If you follow it, fine. If you don't want to, you don't. So the Hindutva beauty has to be understood is a beauty of persuading you. And if you are persuaded, you follow. If you are not persuaded, don't follow. And you will not be condemned or you will not be called by any bad name and so on. So therefore, I would say, today, let us understand the flavor of Hindutva. And it is not something that forces you to do something. There is nothing, compulsion in it. Even the much misunderstood Varna system, which has been considered as an oppressive, this thing, it's not compulsory. If you follow this, then you become that. For instance, if you're a Jnani and Tyagi and a Sahasi, you qualify to be called a Brahmin. So there are some conditions. There's got nothing to do with birth. Nowhere is the Varna system connected with birth. As far as Gita is concerned, there may be some people like Manu and so on, they may have said so, but Manu wrote a Smriti, and a Shruti, he wrote a Smriti, not a Shruti. A Shruti is what God gives, and you can't change it. And Smriti is what you remember. So after Manu came Yajna Valkya, after that Mitakshara, so on and so forth. So these are codes. Today we have the Constitution of India, which is a kind of Smriti, which can be revised, but it's a set of codes. So I begin by saying this, that today when I speak about Hindutva and say it is under siege, what is it under? Why is it under siege? Because everybody knows now that Hinduism, Hindu, is now widely perceived by people as something they have. There's a Hindu consciousness in the country. It may not be still complete, but their consciousness is there. But having the consciousness, what does it mean? So if somebody talks to you about caste, then you say there's no such thing. That's what I would advocate, saying no, you're the same. And we are supported by the science of it. That is, under the DNA testing, all Indians who are of this, who are of this soil, they all have the same DNA. There is no difference from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from the west to the east. The Indians are the same. There is no difference. That is what the recent DNA studies have shown. And therefore, there's nothing special about a Brahmin in terms of birth, because it's got nothing to do with birth. We are all born the same way. You can change your Varna. Vishwamitra was born in a Kshatriya family, but having been born in a Kshatriya family, he became not only a Rishi, but Rishi of Rishis. Even the gods used to be afraid of him. So therefore, and then Vedavyasa, his mother was a fisherwoman. They can give you lots of examples of great Rishis who were not born in the so-called Brahmin family. So therefore, I would like everybody to have this Hindutva concept, that we are the same. There is no difference. Superficial differences should not be looked at. If you're closer to the equator, you live in closer to it, your skin color will change, it will become darker. That everybody knows. It's got nothing to do with race. Skin color has nothing to do with race. So there are a lot of things that the British have brainwashed us with, which we have to remember. Now, when I talk about Hindutva, I would like a few things to be taken as a kind of compulsion, not forced, but in terms of desirability. And that I would say, for example, wearing clothes which are suitable to India. So when you see people, why Gandhi wore a dhoti, why over the years people wore pajama and kurta and so on, these are basically, there's no compulsion in it, I must tell you very frankly. But the fact is that a Indianness or a Hindu-ness came out of this. And I would certainly would tell people that, well, if you wear pant and shirt and tie, well, I mean, there's nobody to tell you that this is against the law. It's obviously not against the law. But I think over the years, you must understand this hot climate, wearing a tie is totally, totally silly, given the kind of atmosphere, temperature we have in our country. So there must be an identification of Hindus must seek to try and put some kind of identification. When you see a Hindu, you must know, yes, this guy is also Hindu because of this. So I would not make the question of dress, saris, for example, salwar kameez, these are all produced in India, and they are also very comfortable, and therefore to give it up and to adopt Western dress, in my opinion, is not due to your thinking that this is more comfortable, this is more appropriate, but because you have come out of this 200 years of British rule and some foreign rule before that. So when I talk about Hindutva, I include this. And I'm not advocating that you must do this, but I am giving you as an example. I have, for example, I went to Harvard. I was, of course, like everybody else, wearing tie and coat, and one day it suddenly occurred to me why I should be wearing this. And I changed, and all my faculty, when I was in the faculty, I was a part of the various boards of Harvard. You will see me, I'm the only one there with a band gala if it's winter, otherwise kurta and pajama, or even sometimes kurta and dhoti. So I would say that perhaps on every Sunday we should be show our Hindutva by wearing these clothes. But nothing compulsory, nothing inferior, there's no inferiority, nothing of the kind. But the fact is that more and more we Hindus must look alike. I'm not deliberately saying Indians, because people misunderstand. They're saying that I'm imposing it on some other religion and so on. I'm not on that. We are anyway 80%. So if 80% wear this kind of comply in this way, it would be enough for us to be known in the rest of the world. So let me also add to you that we, in our constitution, have defined only in one place Hindu, and there is Article 25, its subparts, where it says by Hindu one includes Buddhists, Sikhs, Jains. They are also called Hindus, because Hindu is not a religious concept. Hindu is a regional concept. And people say, no, the Arabs gave it to you. They said Sindhu, and then they couldn't say Sindhu, it became Hindu. That's all nonsense. If you want to look for the origin of this word, there is a Purana which I have not yet identified, but I will be working on it, where it talked about Hindu being a sandhi of two words, he for Himalaya and Hindu for the ocean. So from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, that is how the word Hindu came. And it has been used not extensively, but over the years you can discover it. So let me say that today we are not like before. We are not ashamed of calling ourselves Hindu, but to have Hindu practices, which is what I call as Hindutva, that is under siege. In the sense, people, you see our foreign minister going in tie and coat, and I make fun of them, call them butler, and so on. And same thing with our national security advisor. Fortunately, many ministers now don't do it, but there are also ministers who wear tie and so on, and especially when they go abroad. And so we have to see where to draw the line. And I would say that the Hindu personality comes through Hindutva. Hindu is as I say, is a concept, but Hindutva is the various things that you choose. So I'm not going to take up more time so that Sree Iyer doesn't have any time to develop his points. We'll all come back together and have a debate. But let me say this, that is there a place for English in India? It is there not because the British, but because the Americans have made it an international language. And much of the research, communications today is taking place in English. So English is an international language which we must compulsorily learn. So that's language number one. Your mother tongue is your second language, which you must learn. And finally, in my opinion, over a period of time, 90%, 95% of India has already accepted it, but that one group in Tamil Nadu which is resisting the use of Hindi as a link language. When you say Hindi, we go to the Constitution. The Constitution talks about Hindi with Sanskrit vocabulary. And why? Because all our languages have Sanskrit. You go to Tamil also, I'm sure that we have Sree Iyer, he can list words and words which are of Sanskrit, which are used in our cinemas, they are used in our daily conversation, and so on. So Sanskrit and once I had a debate with one-to-one debate with Karunanidhi, and Karunanidhi and I may have been ideologically apart, but we were good friends in the sense we met and we joked with each other, made fun of each other, all that. So one day I asked, he told me, Tamil has nothing to do with Sanskrit. Don't bring Sanskrit into the picture. So I said, tell me one thing, your name is Karunanidhi. Is it a Tamil word or a Sanskrit word? Karuna and Nidhi. Tell me where is the origin in Tamil of these words. I can tell you how ancient are these two words in Sanskrit. Similarly, I said, your election symbol, you say Chinnam in Tamil. What did you say in Sanskrit? Chin. So, the election symbol is Chin in Sanskrit and Chinnam in Tamil. And what is that? Udayan Suryan. This is what the DMK people say, that their symbol is Udayan Suryan. Uday means rising and Suryan means sun. So rising sun is the election symbol of the DMK. So these DMK guys are a little crazy, and I think they have been taught from the wrong end by the British, and they made a mess. But Tamil has, if you take the dictionary and go through Tamil, it has 40% words in common with Sanskrit. And its script is almost like Devanagari. For instance, in Tamil, if you write ka, you write like this. And of course, in Devanagari also, you write almost like this. And then you want to say ki, you put a matra. And you want to put ku, you put another matra below. That's common to Sanskrit and Tamil. And so, therefore, the commonness is something that is part of our Hindutva. So we must go on discovering these commonness, and by that we will then do what we already, our VHS has succeeded about talking about Hindus and what are the core concepts of Hindus. We have propagated it so much that it's gone all over. Now we must propagate Hindutva and what are the dimensions of it and why it is for the country it is nationwide, and how we can make this into a method of making us one people. So in the beginning, if I get more time, I'll say something more. But now I think with your permission, I'll hand over the microphone to Sree Iyer. Over to you, Sree Iyer.
Namaskaram, Dr. Swamy. Namaskar to everybody. And it's always a joy and pleasure to be on VHS channel. VHS is a group of intellectuals. We are free to think our thoughts. In fact, I'm going to start out by showing or trying to show our viewers how this whole Hindutva and Hinduism is perceived in the United States. Dr. Swamy, there is a constituency very close to where I live called Fremont, and it is represented by Mr. Ro Khanna. And about a couple of years ago, he made a tweet saying that Hindus are good, Hindutva is bad. So if you think that Rahul Gandhi came up with this thing, remember he said Hindu is Gandhi, Hindutva is Godse. Remember that, sir? Even that is not original. That was taken from Mr. Ro Khanna's.
Yes,
so what happens is when we talk about Hindutva and when the children that are growing up in the United States, if they read about Hinduism in their textbook, they're only shown two pictures, sir. One is the picture of Nataraja dancing over a baby, and the other is of Kali drinking blood. Okay, so you see how the whole portrayal is lopsided. And this started in California, and whether we like it or not, California tends to be the tip of the spear for US, and every other state starts absorbing the same educational system or the materials and so on and so forth. Although there is very large flexibility for the teachers themselves to teach a particular topic. In other words, the state will just give you guidelines. It's up to the teacher to go deeper or make it only at a shallow treatment. And why I'm saying all this is that this Hinduism and Hindutva they have tried to break it here and confuse people. So for me, I see it easier if I say I am a Sanatani, follower of Sanatana Dharma. And Sanatana Dharma means eternal flow. This has been there for a long time. It is here today. It will be there forever. And this way, what happens is a lot of the things that people try to, pin against you, saying, oh, you are a Hindu, you are this, you are a worshipper of so many idols. Dr. Swamy, Hinduism is very deep. For example, I don't know how many of our viewers know this, but there is only one God. There's only one God. It is called Parabrahma. The Parabrahma doesn't have a Rupa. And it was difficult for the common person to understand and pray to this Parabrahma. That is how polymorphism evolved. That is how people were said, okay, you want to pray to this person, this. So that is how the concept of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva evolved. Sometimes we say, Parameshwar. That is actually more closer to Parabrahma than the Shiva. So there is a slight difference. Ishwar is different from Shiva. But the point I'm trying to make, sir, is this is a very scientific, very deep religion. And it takes a long time to understand the concept. At the end, if you have to condense it and say in 2 words or 4 words what it is Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. This comes from Taittiriya Upanishad, where the Guru is telling the Sishya, this is like, the guy has graduated, he's about to leave the Gurukul for, Grihasti life. He says, this is all you need to remember. And he also says, Matru Devo Bhava, treat your mother like God. Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. All these are coming again in same Taittiriya Upanishad. The vastness of the knowledge that is available. what are Vedas? Vedas means knowledge. It doesn't talk about a particular god because there never was, sir. Polymorphism is the way to explain why we have millions of gods and goddesses. It is what you want to pray. If you feel like by praying to a tree that makes you feel like you are closer to God, so be it. You don't want to believe in God, that is fine too. So why I'm saying all this, sir, is when we try to talk about Hindutva as being a flavor of Hinduism, it might resonate in India where people have some idea of what it is. But for somebody who's looking at a blank sheet, it's a little confusing. And this is my own little way I have tried to do this thing, but I'm not saying that everybody has to agree with me or not agree with me. The first thing that many Sanatanis have started doing is that let's first fix the education system. What is being taught? From grade 6 to grade 10, what is being taught? So that work is in progress. It's now what, 6-7 years now, and those people who have already published, billions worth of books don't want to change it. It has nothing to do with knowledge or not knowing Hinduism. Their thing is a pure business point. They say, I have $1 billion worth of inventory. I don't want to change it. They don't even want to insert a slip of paper saying that this is the errata. So this is the kind of problems that the United States is facing, but slowly but steadily, these are also changing. For example, wherever you have communities where there are lots of Hindus, they are now suggesting to the teacher who's teaching their children Hinduism, this is what you should be really teaching. Don't Varna system, for example. And many teachers also ask you to come and give a guest lecture, what it is. So to some extent, we are trying to fix this problem. But is Hindutva in danger? 100% absolutely it is in danger, because it is this polymorphism. It is the fact that people find it difficult to explain that Nataraja is not dancing on a baby, he is dancing on an asura to keep him under control. And then people will say, how can a baby be a Rakshasa? Rakshasas can take any rupa.
Yes.
So this is where the thing starts getting involved. You have to draw people in by way of stories to try and tell why this is happening. See, only recently, sir, I came to know that Shiva never kills his opponents. He always converts them back into his faith to make them his followers, as opposed to Vishnu form, where you actually end up killing the adversary. So there is such depth here. There is such richness here. There is such logic here. It is our mistake, ours meaning like my generation, for not paying enough attention to this and for doing other things such as, pursuing perhaps a better career and coming off. But it is not too late. It is never too late. In fact, I can tell you, Dr. Swamy, I see a lot of the channels, the amount of stories and the following that Bhagavata stories, or even story about Ahalya Bai. There's a serial running right now, Ahalya Bai Holkar. Superbly done. So there's a huge audience that's watching that too. However, this part is fine, but my concern, Dr. Swamy, is about the inherent kshatriyata that Hinduism or Hindutva has. This has become really, really weak. Because that, in my opinion, is the reason why these 20% feel emboldened that we can go and kill anybody at will. There were 12 people around, Kanayalal sir, 12 people. Only one dared to intervene, and that fellow's life is also hanging in a balance right now.
Yes.
And these two escaped. They escaped to 40 kilometers before they were caught. Why I'm dragging from there to a particular instance is that the bigger story needs sharpening.
Yes.
And unless we do that, we will have the Priyanka Reddys who felt that, leaving her scooter in a lighted place is safer than working in a cow shelter where it is all muddy and dirty. And she paid for it with her life. So the point I'm trying to make is that there are lots of faults that can be seen in this. Unfortunately, our enunciation, our articulation of what our dharma is still insufficient. And this is where we are falling. This is where we are. See, we don't mandate that children have to come to Bible school or something equivalent to that. We don't mandate our children to say, on Saturday, you will sit down and recite this chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I used to do that, Dr. Swamy. That is why what little Hindutva I have now is because of my dad forcing me to recite Bhagavad Gita, learn it by heart, recite Taittiriya Upanishad, learn it by heart, and so on and so forth. I used to hate it at that time because I didn't understand what I was trying to say. Now I do, but it's a big difference 20, 30 years later. This needs to go down further. Why it is so scientific? Why it is important? What is the significance of the number 108? What is Om? Om is the sound of the energy that is reaching us from the sun. It's the most fundamental component of life. And it is for everybody. So these kinds of talks, these kind of arguments, they need to be more. I'm going to stop now, sir, because I just wanted to kind of give you a perception from a Western lens, what is happening. And Rajiv Malhotra ji has done a lot of work, and many of us in our own little way, we are doing stuff. But it is not enough that we do it because the people have lost the habit of reading. And that is what is really the problem. People are writing a lot of good stuff. But are you the viewer? Are you reading? Can you spend 20 minutes every day to read 10 pages? Because only when your kids see you reading, then they will also be drawn. They will come and start reading. I know I'm a little tangential, Dr. Swamy, but this is where I see is the problem. That they are really hitting at what they perceive as weaknesses. In fact, these are not weaknesses, they are strengths. Rajiv Malhotra ji says again and again, Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma is an open source software. Anybody can take anything and build on top of that, and you will still be Hindu. But this message needs to reach more. Thank you, sir.
Just before I ask my other colleagues to intervene and give their opinion, let me make one thing which is Swami Dayananda Saraswati, not the Arya Samaji Dayananda Saraswati, but one who was had an ashram in Coimbatore and Rishikesh, and has written a number of books which are worth reading. He had one day a request from the Israeli rabbi, chief rabbi, that they would like to discuss the difference between Judaism and Hinduism. So Swami Dayananda Saraswati created a team, and I was included in it in the Delhi part. There were two places, two times we met. One was in Delhi and then another in Israel, to see whether Judaism and Hinduism could be harmonized in terms of projection. The main argument made by the chief rabbi, was that you have polytheism and we have only one God. So that's where the problem arises, and that since that is there, we are not going to be able to ever come together. And Swami Dayananda Saraswati gave a beautiful analysis where he said, yes, we have manifestations of many, but Ishvara is only one, and that is God. And so you call them God, you call anything else you want, but we have only one God in the end, and that's called Ishvara. Now, this core concept is not taught anywhere. So what is the problem is that we should have textbooks which are, you talked about Rajiv Malhotra's books and others' books, agreed, but they should be made compulsory reading. We'll have Wendy Doniger or somebody like that who talks about all the rubbish. That will be part of our syllabus, but not what Rajiv Malhotra writes, or any of these, so many people who have written. Some foreigners have come and settled in India, and then they have written. in a language which even foreigners can understand if they know English. So my view is that it's the syllabus which is important. And we can say that if we are a Christian and you're a Muslim or any other religion, you don't want to do this instruction, this is not compulsory. But anyone who wants these instructions about what is the concept of God, what is his uniqueness, in a secular way, without making it into a religious issue, that should be, in my opinion, taught in school. We can begin by making it optional in the beginning, and then as the acceptability grows, we then take it forward. Hinduism says that all religions lead to God. Is there any other religion in the world which says that? Now, how can you say Hinduism is negative and Hinduism is this, Hinduism that, and prefer another religion which says my way, or in some cases they say you will be dead if you don't go my way, but or my way or the highway or whatever you want to say. So in that sense, we have always accommodated everything. The Jews came to India, they lived here happily till Israel was created, and then they went away. The Parsis, who today are an integral part of India, they have come here to escape persecution of Iran, and they stayed here without any difficulty. And when the British asked them when they were leaving that, you're a minority, you might be targeted, they said, for thousands of years we have no problem. We don't need you. You go home. We are quite safe here. So this is the tradition in which we are brought in. In between, because of these foreign invasions that took place, there's a certain bitterness has come, and that has to be overcome so that we can once again have the happy occasion of having our own religion and yet being able to discuss it without rancor. Over to you, Jagdish and others. Please, in the another 20 minutes or 15 minutes we have, we like comments from the other participants.
Dr. Swamy, Dr. Swamy and Sree Iyer, a very important question which is bothering many of our viewers is the present situation where there is lot of hatred spread against Hindus in India. There is lot of killings which are taking place. We have a government which rode on the Hindutva wave, and still these things are happening in India. So what is your opinion or feeling on what's happening in India, especially the beheading and some killings happening on the name of religion, targeting others? So a lot of viewers would like to have your take on this.
First, let Sree Iyer say, and then I will add to what he says.
I regret say this thing, but BJP has turned Hinduism and Hindutva into a convenient tool to stay in power. This is purely selfish, but then you can turn around and ask, listen, the other side is bribing money, voter with money. How do I go and stand in the same field and fight? So I am also following the concept that was laid down by Lord Krishna. He says you have to fight in the fight, you have to fight in the same way the opponent is fighting. So this is why I am doing it. So what, sir, again, I don't know whether this is true or not. Many people say that AIMIM is a B team of BJP used to cut into the Muslim vote. I don't know if it's true or not. See, these are all pointers where BJP never denies it also. They don't say this guy has nothing to do with us. But the truth is, what used to be a 55% majority in old city of Hyderabad, the Hindus, today are just 15%. And if you go and look at the land registry records of who is the buyer, always one religion. And I'll tell you another reason why they quietly left, selling their property at a loss. Every day, their neighbors were always asking, looking at the women folk in the house, oh, your daughter is now going to this college. She was going to that college. Why does he need to know where your daughter is studying? there was a sustained attempt to try and put fear in the minds of Hindus. And this is beating of BJP. This is what the truth is, Jagdish ji.
Thank you. Dr. Swamy, your comments?
Well, I think Sree Iyer has covered most of it. The issue is this, that we need definitely instruction in religion so that these kinds of thoughts don't come to our mind, that we are being targeted. I am not sure that the guys who did what they did who were not sent or trained by bringing out of India. We have to get to the bottom of it. But I would say that there were people from the Muslim community who went and condemned that whole thing, and OIC was one of them. So yes, we have a lot of differences with them, but let's make sure that there are spokesmen in different religions who in a time of crisis can come together and together say, this is not good for our country, and therefore we together condemn what is going on, and we will support the government forces to bring this to an end. So that that needs, because here I find in India today there's much more suspicion, and there is a lot of personal hatred that people come across. Even I faced it quite a bit. Who are have hatred for my approach to the problem of Hindu-Muslim unity. And we have to overcome this because there are enemies of our country who would like to see these divisions to get deeper.
Dr. Swamy, just a few thoughts basically. The stemming as to why Hindutva is under siege in India today, the so-called Hindutva party, it's basically incompetent and impotent because they are not standing up as a simple fact to say, okay, you know what, we Hindus voted for BJP and Modi, then they made Modi the Prime Minister. He's still trying to appease the Muslims. It is never going to happen, not his lifetime, even if it takes 100 Janmas. You cannot appease the minorities and expect them to vote for you. It's not going to happen. And he's continuing to do the same mistake over and over and over again. What Vajpayee did, repeat the same mistake, is going to get thrown out. So that, if you see that pattern, Doctor, just because this government is not standing up and not putting the people who are violating the law as we speak, is straight all the way right from the extreme fringe elements all the way to the judiciary today. They all know this government is incompetent. They're not going to do anything. They can just say whatever they want to say, but this government is going to keep quiet. Because there's one man who just wants to be seen as a good person all over the world. He doesn't care about whether something has to, law and order has to be maintained within the country. Some kind of a stability has to be given. None of that. I don't see any of that because purely the whole thing stems from that. Be it the comments of the recent that happened by one of the Supreme Court judges to make such a comment which is totally irrelevant to what the case was. All the way, it stems for what? I mean, if you know that you're not going to get retaliated, the ASG or anybody else, the Solicitor General, is not going to say a word saying that it is completely out of scope and why are you making such comments, or be it up to the person who just bravely walked across to a shop and beheads a person and walks away. I mean, it stems purely from the fact that this government is a failure when it comes to protecting Hindutva rights, Hindutva lives. Very simple. To protect the Hindus, be it the Palgar massacre, nothing has happened so far. The massacre in Bengal, nothing has happened. Even today, that erstwhile crook Raja, that former 2G telecom thug, he's calling saying that we have to secede from the country. How can he continue to be a member of parliament of this? It's ridiculous. These guys have the audacity to go and say such things in a public meeting, saying that we should secede, but he's still a member of the parliament. This government is totally incompetent and just absolute cowards when it comes to protecting the rights of Hindus. I just wanted to comment. I don't want to, I mean, somebody wants to react. I just saw all of this that is going on. It is just purely stemming from the fact, I don't blame, instead of blaming the others who are attacking Hindus, it is incompetence of this government to put lay down and whatever. They don't have to put any new laws. Just enforce the law. You consistently say you enforce the law that is already there. You don't need to go for a new law. That incompetence is what we're seeing today as why the Hindus are suffering. Arvindji, go ahead.
Yeah, all the issues have been raised by the Jagdish Shetty ji and Ramesh Swamy ji. And even the initial mention of Hinduism or the definition of Hinduism using the Vedas by Sree Iyer ji. In reference to that, I want to say, if there is a threat to Hinduism or Hindutva, where is it coming from? Who is to be blamed? Mr. Ramesh Swamy was pointing to Mr. Modi. No, I would say there are 4 pillars of democracy: government, judiciary, executive, and press, media. Now, I would say all the 4 pillars are to be blamed. Now, has judiciary, for example, he mentioned about judiciary, starting from 1995, when a 3-judge bench headed by Justice Verma said that Hindutva is a way of life. And he was actually discussing a case where the politician was accused of seeking votes in the name of Hindutva. He said, no, it is not a crime. And from 1995 to 2022, 27 years, where has judiciary gone? If you look at the remarks made by, not in the part of the judgment, but remarks, observations made by judiciary in cases related to Hinduism would show the journey from 1995 to 2022 shows that Hindutva is under siege because of judiciary. Judiciary cannot be spared, number one. Number two, when you talk about Mr. Modi, why you forget about Mr. Vajpayee? Modi was not the first person to be voted in power because of Hindutva. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the first person to be voted, given full majority. Hindus had trust and faith that Hindu Hriday Samrat, so-called Hindu Hriday Samrat, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee will stand to the Hinduism and Hindutva. Did he? He did not. So the blame should start from Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. 6 years of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, 8 years of Modi. I would say, of course, there was the interregnum of 10 years when Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, who was not supposed to be protector of Hinduism because he did not come in the power because of the Hindu vote. But these people did. So 8 years plus 6 years, 14 years. 14 साल में तो राम भी बनवास आ गए थे वापस अयोध्या in 14 years. And where is Hinduism today? And then what about the press? If you look at the press coverage, I'm not referring to Udaipur or what happened in Ajmer and Bhilwara and others during the celebrations and the communal rights. Look at each and every, whether it is print medium, whether it is electronic medium, everywhere, wherever the name of Hindus comes, the press also cuts corners. Press does not even mention the person, the perpetrators of crime.
Arvindji,
They
why?
will give the
Why?
name or hide the name. So press is also to be blamed, media is also to be blamed, government is also to be blamed, judiciary is also to be blamed. Now the question is, how do we get over it? Dr. Swamy and Sree Iyer.
No, I would say this, that when the Muslim nations protested, we should have told them, mind your business.
Correct.
Yeah, Qatar, for example. We should have told them, mind your business. They are not treating their minorities well. Can you celebrate Diwali in Qatar? I've been to Qatar and people there told me that they can't. Can you celebrate in Saudi Arabia? No. So can you take pictures of Ramchandra ji on your flight from Delhi to say any of these Arab countries? You will be intercepted and they will take the pictures, and they will, if it's in glass, they'll break the glass and then tear the thing up. So I would say that we are not interfering with them. You, all right, you want, you do it. But I would say that we have to, first of all, take the stand that many of the things that we have inherited today are a consequence of foreign invasions. And we are putting it right together. And yes, we are not happy when such incidents take place, but you don't interfere. Do you think the Americans have treated their blacks and before that the Red Indians and so on reasonably? That they are constantly giving advice and they're writing books for our colleges and schools. So there has to be a self-confidence that we are 80%. And we therefore, as a 80% population Hindu, we are in the process of correcting many of the things that were commonplace earlier on has gone. Even untouchability is now gone to a very low level, and the constitutional backing is there for it. We haven't put in any constitutional backing for any of the other religions, but only for Hindu religions we have done it, and we have made it against the law. So we are running out of time, but I would say let's not the Hindus be on the defensive. But at the same time, let not the Hindu be arrogant to think that there's nothing to change. We need now a concept of a Hindu which supersedes everything else, including place of birth and the claim to any caste you have or varna you have, all that. There must be a feeling generated of a Hindu being superior to every other sub-concepts which have been keeping us down.
Since we are speaking of Qatar, let me give you one big miss on part of the Indian government. Dr. Swamy, Qatar won the rights to host the World Soccer Cup in 2022. The rights were won in 2010. If you go back and look at the population density in Qatar, population went up by 22%. And for every Qatari, there are 5 foreigners there. In 2010, they got in boatloads of people because they needed to construct a new city, 7 new stadiums, a new airport, a whole slew of hotels. This whole thing is a new ecosystem they constructed. What happened? From that point up until now, 6,710 people have been killed. They have died there. And of those, 3,000 are of Indian origin. Till today, even though I have put out 2 weeks ago a story, and this was basically from Guardian, which had published it in November 2021. They give statistics. 3,000 were of Indian origin, more or less, give or take. The 3,000, don't you think that the ambassador of India in Qatar would have had his information? If Qatar started to protest, could he not have used this thing and said, what about this? You guys are paid. Yeah. You know what the reason they give? They said these people died of heart attack. These are able-bodied men. Able-bodied, no women, able-bodied men, 18 to 25, 30 maybe. They can't die of heart attack. What happened was they had heat stroke, and that was not properly investigated. Another thing, by 2012, 2013, they would have known things were not going well. Why didn't the Indian External Affairs Ministry step in and say, look, we will send a team of doctors. They'll set up camp once a month. Make sure that everybody that is working there is taken care of properly, that they are getting their electrolytes, that they are working under proper conditions. Sir, I am told temperature goes to 52 degrees centigrade. And in that higher temperature, if you are going up and working on concrete and you know, the iron bars you can't touch, sir, those things are, you know, you'll burn your fingers, singe your hand. This is the kind of conditions under which these people work. This would have solved 2 problems in my opinion, Dr. Swamy. It is my contention that out of those 3,000, 80% are Muslims. Do you think the Muslims of India will now have the same kind of thing? Like, oh yeah. That country is saying that Muslims are being discriminated in India. I'll go and take out one more Hindu. See, this is the thing. This is where this government completely fails in terms of communications. They don't even have to come out and say this thing. He could have just showed, you're going to say that, I'm going to say this. And he would have shut up quite very, very quickly. See, this is where I see that, and Dr. Swamy, I know the reason why this is. The decision making is always going to be, it seems to be in one individual or two individuals. A country as vast as India cannot be run by decisions made by one or two individuals with a sidekick giving some bad data. This is my take, sir.
Perhaps,
I could be horribly wrong.
no, perhaps
Yes,
Sree
indeed.
Iyer, the Indian embassy in Qatar was too busy giving priority to condemn the fringe elements of the BJP. See, the Qatar embassy of India in Qatar did not have time to look after our poor Indian workers who have come there to do work for the Qatar government. They were very busy to condemn the ruling party spokesman as a fringe element. So that is their priority.
Jagdish ji, I wish I could say yes, sir, but this is only a recent occurrence. I'm talking about a period of 12 years. This is a well-established thing.
Even in the 12 years, they may be busy. The leaders of one other country must be busy hugging one another rather than, doing serious business. Dr. Swamy, another question from our viewers is, are you happy at the speed in which the government of India is moving in the direction of Hindutva in the last 8 years? These are some of the viewers' questions. 2-3 type of questions.
Short answer is I am not at all happy. Even a simple thing like declaring Ram Setu as a national heritage monument is just one signature of the Prime Minister. Everything else, the entire file is lying on his table for the last 8 years, and he has not signed. No, I am not at all happy. This is not a Hindutva government. This is a apologetic government when it comes to Hindutva.
How can this be improved, Dr. Swamy? Because all hopes are on BJP and the Sangh Parivar. So what can be done in the present circumstances, the way things are happening in the last few days in India? What can be done? What is your advice to our viewers?
Why not another session on that? What steps should be taken? Because we're already at 9 o'clock. So,
Right.
okay, so we can have another session on this after getting feedback from the public.
Yeah. Okay, Arvind, it's now your turn to...
Just last remark before I wind up. In Islam, if you don't follow Islam, you are called a kafir.
Yeah.
That means you are a non-believer in Islam. If you are a Hindu, and if you are not a Hindu, what is the antonym of Hinduism? In India, the antonym of Hinduism is secular. It is the secular people who have done the harm to Hindutva and Hinduism. It is the Hindus. In fact, 80% of the seculars are also Hindus. The so-called secular people in India, 80% of that is also Hindus. Look at what happened recently in Maharashtra. For 2.5 years, these 30-odd MLAs were enjoying the power. 30-odd MLAs. They're enjoying the power. And after 2.5 years, they woke up in the name of Hindutva. And now they formed another government in the name of Hindutva. What were they doing in 2.5 years? So it is this secular element. It is these elements who are Hindus, and they want to take the advantage of Hindus. So don't blame Modis or don't blame Bajpayee's or don't blame Uddhav Thackeray or any other person who stood for Hindutva. They are all politicians, and these politicians, I'm afraid, we have to blame first, then judiciary, and then media, and then others. There are other issues, as Dr. Swamy said. We may require a full episode of Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga in order to discuss those issues, especially the question raised by Mr. Jagdish Shetty as to what should be done to counter these forces. I'll say there is a conspiracy, not only in India, but globally against Hindutva and Hinduism. How to identify these people, how to counter them. We would need another episode with Dr. Swamy to discuss this. Thank you, Dr. Swamy, today, and thank you, Mr. Sree Iyer, for bringing Vedas and the shlokas for defining what is Hindutva. Jagdish Shetty ji and Mr. Ramesh Swamy. And the work will not be complete if I do not acknowledge the work done by our technical team headed by Ashish Shetty, Swaminathan, Gadgi Rakesh, Ishwar Iyer, Tejas Navalgul, Vishal Mehta, and Ajesh Nayak. We will be bringing another important issue in the next Sunday episode, 163rd of Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga at 8 p.m. on Sunday. Till then, Namaskar, Jai Hind.
తీసి మంచి పని అది మాకు కావాలి ఇది బండి మొత్తం మంచి చేసి 6 బాటిల్ ఎక్కడ పోయింది ఎట్లా అయిపోతాయిరా 6 బాటిల్ కదా పోయి కింద పోయి పట్టుకురమ్మను ఆ బాటిల్ నింపుకొస్తారు నింపుకొచ్చి ఇప్పుడు ఖాళీ చేసిన బాటిల్ నీళ్ళు నింపుకరండి నేను ఏమంటున్నా అట్లీస్ట్
బండి చెప్పు దిగు